In higher ed, we're all looking for big wins, but reducing a 75% application abandonment rate and achieving a 90% conversion rate, that's next level transformation. Michael Bettersworth, CMO at Texas State Technical College, shares how they achieved this by streamlining the application process with Element 451.
Our Element journey began out of a necessity. We were switching to a new SIS, and the application process was going to pose some real usability issues for us. We felt that application was going to hamper our enrollment. So we began quickly to evaluate different CRMs, different applications. So for context on that, our conversion rate with the prior application had about 75% abandonment of people clicking apply to submit. And the first weeks after going live with Element, we saw an 80% conversion, and that's now up to 90. So improving the usability of that application on the front-end process has had a significant advance in our intake.
When technology works for students, it works for you. Visit element451.com to see how simplifying the application process with artificial intelligence will lead to significant results for your institution. Welcome to the Higher Ed Geek Podcast, where we explore the impact of EdTech on the student experience with engaging, fun, and relevant conversations that honor the wide range of work happening all across the higher ed ecosystem. I'm your host, Dustin Ramsdell. I've been working in and around higher ed for the past decade, focused on student support and digital experience. Join me every week for discussions with some of the best minds in education technology. We'll be bringing you their perspectives on how digital transformation is reshaping the way we recruit, engage, and graduate learners. You'll hear firsthand accounts of how institutional leaders are developing their strategy, as well as get deeper on the stories of how these EdTech tools are being built to foster better student outcomes. With that, let's get to today's episode. Well, I am excited for this episode. I do always try to use the North Star of trying to learn as much from our guests as our audience does. So our guest here represents an institution that I'm not super familiar with, and I'm excited to kind of learn more about their approach that I think is emblematic and really representative of what I think more institutions need to be kind of aspiring towards to really meet this moment in a positive way to support today's learners. So we'll start as we always do. Erika, if you want to briefly kind of overview your professional background and what brought you to APU, and share a little bit about your role there as well.
Yes. Hi, everyone. I am Erika Orris, and I'm the Senior Vice President of Operations for American Public University System. I have well over 30 years of experience in higher education. The vast majority of that time has been with universities. I had a short time with the boot camp as well. Initially, I started off working with more of the traditional, age students, well before online was even in our vocabulary. And then for the past 20-some years, I've been really working more so on the online adult higher education space. So it's something that I was a product of myself after I decided to go back for an MBA. So I'm very familiar with not just the benefits of online education, but some of the challenges that students may have as well.
Yeah, I think with, what I hope to cover in this episode, the time that we have is kind of marble in kind of all the sides I feel like that sort of, represent like your institution of just being, digital first, how are sort of the operations of like how your team works together, but then, what does that mean for students, the students that are kind of interested in what you're offering, and then sort of their circumstances or just sort of that digital first environment or digitally exclusive environment, like how are you kind of still creating, supportive experiences and everything is something I'm always kind of really excited to talk about and explore, because I think there are like a lot of different approaches to doing that. And I think that obviously is always helpful to kind of uplift all the different flavors and versions of that. But so, yeah, I mean, your title being, Senior Vice President of Operations, and it being, American Public University and the system like digital first, what are ways that you've been able to create like operational efficiencies and kind of more effective processes and everything for your faculty and staff in particular?
Yeah, so my job in operations are services outside the classroom. So my counterpart, who is the provost, handles she handles all the academic and faculty component of the university. So our job is really to help students maneuver through the administrative side of being a student. Operations at American Public University is really through the whole life cycle. So we have student support and the military assistance team who handle all the calls of students that might come in, including chats and emails, of course. And then we have admissions, academic advising, student and alumni affairs, which includes career services, as well as financial aid advising. So it's really helping students that want to get into education, get in, enroll in the right courses, pay for their courses, and continue successfully through their academic journey. A few ways that we work, our university is 100% online. So all of the support my team does is also virtual, either by phone, chat, email, or text messaging. So we have various ways students can contact us, and we also try to ensure that they can have self-service when they need it. One example of where we digitized a platform is in our career services area. So we have a whole series of student support in one-stop platform called People Grove. And that includes everything from AI and chat GPT-powered resume writing tools that help students put those keywords and phrases on their resume and LinkedIn profiles that can potentially pop their names to the top of a list. The other thing that we did to support students is we put in a 24/7 mental health app called Talk Campus that's available in 25 different languages. It's available 24/7. And I'm sure being in higher education news, the mental health component of students that are juggling multiple things has really it's something that we really need to address and ensure that we provide the right support for students. So we have 3 different levels of mental health support, which includes that 24/7 app that students can access.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting to me that I was reflecting on recently is like the notion of, you have all these kind of things like the mental health support sort of on demand 24/7 is kind of directed to the student, but like, the institution is sort of bringing that in to leverage to provide at, that is just like also a tool in the tool belt of your faculty and staff. Like if they're identifying a problem, if they have a kind of clear line of communication and, good relationship with the student that they're working with, they can be, in such a powerful position to be like, hey, well, I think this could be helpful for you. And, whether it is mental health counseling or tutoring or, whatever else, like, I think it is the idea of, making sure that it doesn't just sort of like sit out there and it's like, well, it's there for the students, we present it and we put it out there, but like do that fair share and that due diligence, but also make sure that your faculty and staff feel as though like, because I guess it's like in a weird way, sometimes people just have these notions of like, you are allowed to just sort of like, send the information and it's probably just like a landing page that has the, like, yes, like if you can strongly recommend that your student that you're working with, maybe if they're, getting stressed out, burnt out, like really struggling to kind of, build community or whatever else it might be, like, I think it's always just really, it goes a long way when somebody that you have sort of like, especially maybe like a mentoring relationship or whatever else is saying like, hey, this resource is here for you. Like, check it out. Like, and let me know how it goes, like, cause obviously certainly like stuff like counseling, that's sort of like, sort of behind all the kind of behind the scenes and everything. They're not going to know, necessarily like what was talked about and all that. And that can maybe be a reassurance that they provide, but like, I don't know. So that's my mindset, I guess, is that, as you're saying that, as you've built out this whole kind of portfolio of things that help your faculty and staff kind of just do their job better, like in that sort of like student support kind of aspect.
No, you're 100% right. Not only do they have the knowledge of the platforms, but like Talk Campus and some of the platforms are available to our faculty and staff themselves. So, but you're so right. I mean, students come in where we have, 70 clubs, we have and co-curricular programs that they can get involved in. We have mentoring, which is also part of our People Growth platform, which is peer mentoring. And we have tutor.com and we have mental health services. But students don't remember all of those things, they don't remember all the things that are available to them until they need them. And they do need somebody like faculty or staff to point out to them that when they have an issue or when they just need that additional support, or maybe just somebody else to talk to who's in the same boat, then this is what they have as resources that are available to them. So you're 100% right.
Yeah, because that solves for that sort of like timely piece. Like maybe, you might have, other ways to kind of glean when it's like, oh, this student might need like tutoring support, if they got like a bad grade on their midterm, whatever, but that's also like very reactive. You like, failed to do what you were supposed to do of like a late assignment or, whatever else. So you might kind of leverage those things. But I think just through like conversations and stuff, you can be in a really powerful position to equip your faculty and staff with now what I think has really been, continued expansion and kind of maturation, evolution of these sort of digital student support platforms and everything. And I think you mentioned it a few times, and I'll use this as sort of the segue to my next question of like, in these digital spaces, kind of creating that seamless student experience, like something like PeopleGrove, it sounds like is kind of provides some continuity for students, throughout their experience and everything. Can you just speak to anything else, like if you want to maybe elaborate on that, or just any other aspects of how you create that seamless student experience across the entire kind of life cycle?
Yeah. So a couple of years ago, we started building what we call program pathways. That's not a unique term. It started, with pathways in community colleges years ago. But what we did is we took it a lot of times with adult learners. They just want to know like what is my quickest path to finish my degree, and what is the best way for me to take whatever credits that I've earned through the military or through prior institutions and apply them so that I get those transfer credits applied to my program. So we started building personalized program pathways. And this was a pretty extensive manual effort for us initially, where every student we started with bachelor's program. And we literally built out for them based on their transfer credits and based on, the experiences that they had. Here's your quickest way to complete your degree. And if they stayed on track, then they would know how long it would take them to actually finish their degree or certificate, whatever program they were enrolled in. Recently, we took that and also we're building a co-curricular side that says you should, at this point, then sign up for a CareerLink platform profile, which is part of the PeopleGrove platform. Or have you considered peer mentoring? Or, this is around the time where students might need someone to speak to, download Talk Campus and see if there's some benefit that you might be able to gauge just from having peer-to-peer contact. Adult learners like learning from each other. That's, it's different when you talk about child learning or pedagogy. That's very common in, education language. But andragogy, which is that adult learning, isn't really talked about a lot. And that is really where you're learning not just from your own past experiences, but also from others' past experiences, which adult learners tend to like a lot.
Yeah, I think that's a powerful point, and I've definitely seen that in a lot of different instances. And I think the metaphor, as one who loves that kind of turn of phrase, that was coming to mind is that idea of like the way that you were approaching the sort of pathways piece is like, I think a lot of institutions may just sort of like provide like, essentially like a map. And it's like, look at all these things on the map, like everything you could possibly ever want. It's all here. So like, here's a map and you can get around and kind of like good luck versus like, okay, like, the idea of a very intentional, like by this time you should be doing these things and like, here it is and how you access it and whatever else. And, making it on demand 24/7, whatever else, like very explicit, very clear, milestones and that sort of intentionality and, this should happen before this. And, I think it's just that idea of like now with like, GPS, you're being like, I want to get here. And it's like, okay, you should go this way if you want it to be quicker here, avoid stalls and like that sort of thing. So I think that's sort of like clear kind of juxtaposition because it would be that notion of like, well, we've built it all and they know it's here, right? We told them about it during orientation. We gave them the map. It has all the things on it. So like if they're like looking for something, just look at the map and you'll find your way there, right? Like, but it's like sometimes you get turned around. You don't know what direction you're facing or whatever else. But now it's like, oh, my like GPS is sort of like guiding me through and whatever else. And I think, like you said, just with, somebody who may be, working, full-time or part-time families and, caretaking or just been out of school for a while or whatever else. And certainly, nowadays, I think we're eroding this in a kind of good extent, but like, just comfort and familiarity with like learning in digital environments and stuff, like more people have had exposure to it. But I think certainly still like it could be like, well, I graduated college 20, 30 years ago. And now I'm going back for like my graduate degree. It's just, it's just all different kind of stuff. And I think as much as you can make those very explicit things, and it could be some people are like, I'm in no rush. Like, I don't need to go as quick as possible. And it could be like, cool, we'll make some adjustments and, that's all well and good. But I don't know. I think that is just such a, like, it's aspirational because you even mentioning it was like it was very manual to begin with. And I think that could be where, maybe a lot of institutions have to start. But then if you're seeing like, wow, this is, students are finding this super helpful, it would be, worthwhile for us to like invest in something to try to like do this
That's
more
exactly what we're
scalable
doing.
and kind of sustainable and
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're actually working with our partners in IT to build a very automated process to do exactly what we're talking about. And students can get things like what if tools, like what if I did this program instead of that program, and the students also, let's face it, like they're juggling today. Most of our students work or they're in the military or they have families or all of the above. And I personally remember getting my MBA when my daughter was young and working full time and a single parent. And it's that time. The challenge is the time commitment, that it takes, right? And I went hybrid where I took an online program, but I chose to go in because I didn't know that I would have the discipline to do everything online. And I think a lot of adults still kind of feel that way today, where the online gives you a lot of flexibility. It also gives you a lot of ways to procrastinate, right? So how do you make sure that you get your projects done on time and that you're actually learning, and that involvement in the classroom is very important to really learn, where project-based learning is very, very appealing to most adults because they can learn things that are relevant to potentially what they're doing today in their jobs and apply it immediately.
Yeah. So I guess it sounds like, just again, to kind of use this as a cudgel to segue to my next question. It's like, it's across the board, both kind of, the curriculum, if it's like project based and feels very relevant, applicable to people's kind of everyday lives versus being just sort of like these conceptual kind of theories or whatever else,
Right.
That is part of your approach to be kind of optimized for, kind of being accessible and relevant for today's learners. And I think you've talked about a lot of those sort of co-curricular things as well. So I guess anything else that you'd want to go deeper on or sort of mention about, how your approach as an institution, helps you optimize for being accessible and relevant for today's adult learners?
Yeah, I mean, we're working on a lot of this, so I can't say that we're where we all want to be today. We all have, and I say we all in every department within the university are looking for ways to be innovative and go to the future of online learning. Because, a lot has changed in my 30 plus years in this, but then a lot hasn't changed. Online learning is still pretty stagnant today, but it can be much more engaging. And I kind of go back to a Ben Franklin quote that I heard a long, long time ago, tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, but involve me and I learn. That's where we really want to go, right? We want to get students really involved in their classroom and academics so that they're applying things. So I know me, if you teach me something today and I don't apply it, I forget it. So it's that application that makes that learning much more powerful. And then with artificial intelligence, oh gosh, it's like, the sky's the limit in terms of how you can use AI to engage students in a classroom. You can, curate a lot of different content for particular courses, but when do you serve it up to students? Like, how does that know when, if I'm struggling with an assignment, can I have some of that curated content just delivered to me, where is what we talked about earlier. There's so much out there. You're like, what do you know? How do you know when to use and what to use when you need it? That's the main point is, provide me what I need when I need it. Don't tell me everything up front or I'll forget it.
Yeah. And I think that's like, I guess with just knowing your role being more on the co-curricular side, that idea of having something that could like analyze a lot of like behavioral data, because I think that's always just like more telling. Like a lot of people will just like talk a big game about like what they're going to do or what they want to do or whatever else. But then like, it's like, okay, well, you haven't logged into the LMS in like, however much time, or you've now like missed 3 assignments in a row across like, one or more courses or whatever else. Like, because I think that's where like you've seen already, I think like the seeds we planted even before sort of the kind of explosion of AI powered tools and everything else is like that, you could set up these sort of like kind of, I would say like rudimentary, I guess, but like, these simple formulas of sort of like, if this, then that, it maybe flags something to a person to then do something about it. And, so there's like kind of
the notifications, the alerts, right.
Yeah. And like, how do you maybe amplify, what you're sort of the scale of what you're analyzing with AI, or just kind of start to build in, more, I don't know, just more personalization or just, automation or whatever else through things like AI. So Because I think that's, again, the idea where like you'd be doing all that in service of hopefully the student getting connected to a particular resource, as timely as possible, as relevant as possible, but then also maybe like steering them towards being like, and you could schedule time with your coach or whoever else, like somebody who could help you. Like, we're trying to get you in touch with a human, like, when it is, a timely sort of resource that could maybe solve a problem that you're encountering. So that's where my mind goes. And I'm hoping to see more of that. But obviously that just takes people kind of higher ed leaders being open, I guess, to those sort of possibilities and starting to test and kind of prototype those sort of things. So,
yeah, we're going into a couple tests with a couple different partners right now, where one is a text bot. So it's going to, at least with text, students see it, where you can email. We do have email journeys that work pretty well for us as well, but not all of them are going to open their emails, where if you get a text, you might ignore it, but at least you see it. So we're going into, a text bot pilot where it's just going to check in with students and they can engage or not engage. And if they do engage, that'll send an alert back to our team so that we know that they might need an assistance at that particular time. So the text bot is going to be something that we're going to be launching here fairly soon. We have another AI tool. This is more for prospective students, where we do have a lot of students who inquire, but they may never either want to speak to somebody or, just fall off the radar. So we have another AI pilot that we're going to be starting where not a human, but AI just reaches out to see what they might need. And then for the ones that want to engage with us, then they'll get, transferred over to our admissions department. So we have a couple different pilots that we're working on right now with a couple partners that we've talked to and saw some demos that look pretty interesting to us.
Yeah, that's great to hear, because I think it's that idea of like chatbots came on the scene and it felt like, really cool thing, but I think they're sort of like a novelty because I think it did like, several years ago take like maybe like a lot of manual effort to kind of set up the kind of knowledge base and, just wasn't as maybe sophisticated as it could or should be. Because I think we're seeing now where, there could be two very distinct use cases where, somebody could, if it is sort of their preference or, whatever, have pretty in-depth, lengthy conversations with these to kind of go back and forth and then either explicitly or implicitly get to a point where it's like, you probably are ready to like talk to somebody about this or, move to the next step or whatever. So like they're either like telling the chatbot, like, get me in touch with a human or whatever, or, the AI can kind of analyze like, hey, we've been talking for a while. Like maybe we can, move this forward in a different way, whatever. Like, so I'm just really excited to see that because I think there is, just from what you're saying, like so much potential in that sort of outreach modality where like, email is the utility of, our like digital lives and everything. It's like, you got to have an email to set up accounts and everything. And like people sort of like, neglect it. It can be a fruitful avenue in its own way. But I think certainly if you're trying to get more immediate action from people, texting is probably the better way to go. And that obviously you can harness texting to have the sort of back and forth, just like, with kind of the AI chatbot versus, being, just not something you could do via email. So yeah, excited to hear that you're kind of looking into that. So I think we always like to sprinkle in a little bit of the AI conversations because I think they're thankfully now where we hadn't really talked about it in prior years on this show. Like a lot of people are like in the phase of prototyping or like did a thing that they can now kind of like talk about and reflect on like how it's been going and, how they're sort of taking those insights to kind of improve upon and inform sort of their strategy when it comes to AI and just kind of their digital strategy writ large. But
yeah. Typing is everything, right? So when somebody's actually needing to talk to us or wants to talk to us or ready to talk to us, it's also a much more efficient use of our human capital in the operations area. We have tens of thousands of students and we don't have tens of thousands of advisors available. So it's the best use of our time when students are ready or need or want to talk to somebody. I know with me, I'm sure you do too, Dustin, where you might get phone calls from this company or that company, but you don't want to talk to them right then and there. It's like that timing piece is really, really important.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think with all that we've covered, I think a lot of different aspects of, being this digital first institution, which is always kind of exciting for me to explore. We've done it a few times, but I think just some helpful kind of mantras and North Stars and ways to kind of orient folks' work, whether they are, also digital first or moving in that direction, which I think, more and more institutions are. How would you wrap this up? What advice, final thoughts would you like to leave everyone with as we kind of conclude this episode here?
I think the main thing is, look where your friction points are. we really try to, and this isn't just in operations. I mean, it's a meeting that we have every other week that tries to remove these friction points from students, and support them where they really need it, and focus on those first, and also remember that even though online may seem new, it's not new. It's been around for well over 20 years, and not a whole lot has changed. So that next evolution of digital learning, which is more personalized and engaging, we're still building. And I think that's going to be, the future is how well can we get that student to be involved in their learning so that they're actually learning and not just going through the motions of, getting a grade. So this is something that can be really applicable to their daily worlds today, and support them from an administrative standpoint. They shouldn't have to spend a lot of time on that so that they can focus on learning. And so we're trying to take all those external friction points away so that they can really focus on their education.
Yeah, that's a great perspective. So I think on one hand, what I've sort of felt from that is the idea of like, we're all kind of like marching up the hill of sort of like the adoption curve of like a lot of things, of like being a digital first institution, leveraging AI to sort of, amplify or kind of augment what you're doing. And even just like expansion of digital education portfolios, I think they're just continuing to kind of ripple outward and, whatever else. So it's like, on one hand, it's like, I'd want that to be kind of motivating for people. It's like, okay, if your institution feels like it, needs to do more in this area, like you've got a lot of other people that are going to be on that journey, but also like, don't wait too long. So then you're like kind of, trailing behind the pack a bit. It's like, let's, try to go on this journey together. And even that notion of like, don't get too distracted by just sort of the bright and shiny kind of new things that are coming out that are just sort of like, oh, it's AI this or that or whatever. It's like, where are your pain points? Like you might be already doing things like pretty effectively and pretty well. You don't want to just like cram, something new or some AI thing in there that may kind of, disrupt what's already working well for your faculty, for your staff, for your students, or all the above. So I think as you're looking at maybe opportunities to bring in AI or just kind of take a fresh look, I guess, at your sort of tool set, your tool belt, the digital platforms that you're leveraging. That is something where it's like, there's a variety of ways to try to find those friction points, but I'm sure just sit and think about it for a little bit. You could probably just be like, oh man, it always takes too long to do this, or, people never do that, or like in the way that I want them to. But so I think that is in the moment that we're in for higher ed, I think it is in its own way kind of forcing the point too, I think, of like, needing to be efficient and effective in everything that we do, for all of our stakeholders, both kind of internal and external. So, well, I thank you for your insights, for your time, for your leadership of, again, the type of institution that I think more folks out there, more institutional leaders could, take some great cues from and some examples from, because I think just, I've been talking about like digital first for like years and kind of geeking out about it. So I just love getting the opportunity to kind of speak with somebody who's like, doing it and doing it well. And yeah. So just appreciate you and all that you do and all that you've shared. And we'll have ways to connect with you and the APU in the show notes. So yeah, just thank you so much.
Thank you, Dustin.
Thanks for listening to the Higher Ed Geek podcast. This show is a proud member of the Enrollify Network, home to Higher Ed's largest collection of podcasts. Enrollify is where higher ed goes to grow, so be sure to check out our other podcasts, webinars, video clips, blogs, and more. Visit enrollify.org and subscribe for all the latest details and content drops directly in your inbox. Enrollify is brought to you by Element 451, the digital workforce platform for higher ed. Learn more at element451.com.